Welcome to All Things Well, where we make wellness practical for every day. I'm Tamara Jackson, your host. Here we explore wellness in all forms: emotional, physical, spiritual, financial, creative, and relational, through conversations that inform, inspire, and encourage. Because being well isn't one thing, it's all the things. This is All Things Well, where we make wellness practical for every day. I'm your host, Tamara Jackson. Today's conversation invites us to think about wellness through a different lens. We often associate healing with what happens inside a therapist's office or within the routines of everyday life. But what happens when healing takes us somewhere else? What can travel, different cultures, unfamiliar places, and new communities teach us about ourselves and about living well? Today's guest has spent several years traveling the world, living abroad, and experiencing life through different cultures. We'll explore how those experiences shaped his understanding of wellness, healing, community, and what it means to truly live. Today's guest, Tarik Hamer, has embraced a life that many of us can only dream about. Following a life transition, he chose to become an expat, living abroad and immersing himself in cultures across Mexico, Africa, Europe, and beyond. But his journey isn't simply about the places he has visited. It's about the perspectives of those experiences and how he's using that perspective to invest in the next generation. As the co-founder of the R.E.C Center, the Real Empowerment of Children, that is, he is shaping future leaders by combining the power of physical activity through sports with the holistic benefits of culinary education. Today, we'll explore what the world has taught him about wellness, community purpose, and why some of life's greatest lessons are meant to be shared. Welcome, Tarik.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. That was quite the introduction. Thank you for the introduction. That was lovely. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for being with me and, with the community as we have this important conversation. So you can easily be described as an expat.
Mm-hmm.
What does being an expat mean to you, and how is that different from simply traveling?
Great question. I think I've been asked this question quite often, and it's something I've had to discover on my own, actually. Expat is just you living outside of the place where you were born, right? And in doing that and understanding that you're part of the communities all across the world, there are African-American communities all over the world. And when you're an expat, you tap into that and you really let go of a lot of the things you've been indoctrinated with here in America. Me growing up in the Bronx, prior to moving to Mexico, all I knew about Mexico was, Cabo, Cancun, the border crisis, and the cartel. Right, that's really what that was the extent of my understanding of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Then moving there and living there and tapping into the communities and indigenous people, and just to the many different cities within Mexico, you learn that there's so much more. And once I was able to build a community, folks from all over the country had their own reasons for moving abroad. It became something that I hope that many more folks can experience. And you would gain the insight into how the world operates and how the world looks at America, right? It's something that's very unique. It's a sense of freedom. It's a sense of belonging. It's a sense of not dealing, you can unplug, right? So when I'm living abroad and I'm moving, what goes on in America doesn't even apply. I don't even get into it. I'm not watching CNN. I'm not watching Fox. I'm not watching MSNBC. I don't care what Trump is doing. I don't care. I'm living my life. We're building communities and we're supporting each other. And it's really a beautiful way to live. And it's how it should be.
You said so many words, like really stuck with me as you was describing what life has been for you, like as an expat, the freedom, the unplugging, the sense of community. Before I delve deeper or ask you to go deeper about that, what was happening in your life when you first decided to leave the U.S.?
So at the time, I was going through a divorce. I wouldn't say it was messy, but it was definitely something that I didn't foresee happening. I don't think most people get married with the intention of getting a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, I had done a lot of traveling already. And one of the things that I had wanted to do was live abroad. But that was also something, once I got married, I kind of gave up on that dream because, you get married and it's not just about you anymore. So that was something that I kind of was just like, maybe next lifetime. When I was going through the divorce and the pandemic actually was happening around the same time, I got a little bit depressed. I was stuck in the house like everybody else. And I was like, either I could stay doing this, being stuck in Harlem and walking around with a mask on, or I can kind of tap back into a dream that I once had and do my best to go live it. And I made a decision. I made a decision on a Monday. I was going on a Thursday.
Wow.
I literally called my brother. I said, watch my apartment, here are the keys, and I left. I didn't know anybody when I left, but I knew I wanted to do some things differently. And I had been through a long-term relationship prior to my marriage. That didn't work out. Then the marriage thing, and at some point, it's about you, like decisions I was making, right? Some of the poor choices that I was making. So at some point, you have to do something different, right? And you have to kind of dig deep, and you can't point fingers, right? One marriage gone, you can be like, it didn't work out. You get to 2 and 3, at some point, there's a common denominator situation where you kind of have to look in the mirror and make some changes, and holistic changes. Change is not about just saying I want to change. You have to actually put in different practices.
Absolutely.
Right? To be a different person. So that's what I did. And I needed that break and I just left. I really just did. I really packed up. Fortunately, financially, I had a couple of dollars put away and I said, I'll figure it out. And I left and I never turned back. And life has been a beautiful experience. It's not all easy, but it has been a beautiful experience. I've met some truly phenomenal, amazing people. Some of my favorite people in the world I met in Mexico, was able to build relationships all over the world. But what was happening at that time was, first and foremost, was the divorce, that separation. The divorce is hard, right? It's divorce of not just the person you're married to, but also divorce of family, right? So I had nieces and nephews that I won't see. I had mother-in-laws and cousins and sister-in-laws and stuff like that. So it really is an uprooting of your life of what you thought was going to be in the next 40, 50 years. So it's not just about your partner. It's about all the other people you've built and cultivated relationships with. So that was tough, but it's a part of life. I'm not the first, or will I be the last person to get divorced? But I definitely wanted to do something different and definitely tap back into a dream that I had for myself, which was to live abroad.
You bring up something so powerful and real about divorce, because you're absolutely right. It's not just detaching from the person that you said I do to. It is detaching from community, right?
Yeah.
It's detaching from the thoughts that you had when you said I do, right? This life that I thought I was building with this person or would be building with this person, right? Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it includes the possibility of children, our children, all of those things, all of the hopes, the dreams, the nuances, even when life's, right? Just having that person that is your person with you to y'all journeying together as you figure it out. So you're absolutely right. It's not just the person you were connected to, it's just everything else that surrounds it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so much more. It's so much more.
Absolutely. In answering that last question, you actually answered one of the questions that I had for you. You said you needed something different. So kind of with that in mind, did you leave to find yourself, or do you think you left more to lose the version of yourself that no longer fit?
Wow. I don't think I left to find myself. I definitely wanted to explore and I wanted to see what was out there, right? From when I was young, my mom, my dad, I was always pushed to be in uncomfortable spaces, right? And it started from when I would go to school. I never my local school. Like my parents always wanted me to go to a different school. So I always had to meet new friends, meet new people. I had to deal with people thought they may be able to pick on me, then they find out that they couldn't, right? Because I also knew how to fight, right? So I had certain survival skills Uh, right. If everybody perceives the new kid, they're like, oh, that's the one we're going to pick on. Not necessarily. So I was able to cultivate these survival skills and this way of this confidence of exploration. And so I don't necessarily think I was trying to find myself, but I knew I had to do some things differently. And knowing how I was not a very religious person. I am very spiritual. I tapped into doing some indigenous practices in Mexico and in Africa as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I really just want to tap into like my history, my ancestors, and just find strength there. Just a quick sidebar. In college, I wrote a paper. It was a movie called Sankofa. And in the movie, they were talking about just reconnecting to your ancestors, right?
Yes.
And I remember watching that movie and I wrote a paper on it. I was in college and I was saying I wasn't trying to be against organized religion or whatever else like that. But I'm like, to understand the strength of our ancestors and what they had to endure, yet we don't call on them for strength when we're living lives that they couldn't possibly fathom. And I saw and understood there was strength in that. And I'm not saying there's not strength in Jesus, Allah, Yahweh, Buddha, whoever you may so choose.
Mm-hmm.
But I know for a fact what my ancestors went through. There's no guessing to that. There's no mythology. There's no questioning. So if I could call on them and I could tap into that, that's what I wanted to do. And I started, in Mexico, I have so much to share and I'll share it, but, just tapping into that and understanding as I've traveled all around the world, indigenous people, they have something in common in terms of their spiritual practice. They all honor the earth, they all honor nature, and they honor the food that is provided for them. And I really wanted to lean into that as far as gaining my strength, right? Whether it's the rain, the air, the land, the cow, the fish that you eat, it's every indigenous people all over this world, they are tied to that. Then there's one group that is not. I'm not going to mention them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, so I wanted to tie into that. And that's really what I wanted to seek. And I really wanted to unlearn. One of my favorite movies was Higher Learning. John Singleton, one of my all-time favorite directors. Higher Learning, I loved the movie. And when I first saw it, he typed something at the end that I didn't understand. And he wrote unlearn over an American flag. And at the time, I was like, this is the worst ending ever. Like, what are you talking about? It wasn't until I got older and I started to navigate and explore and interact with different communities and cultures all over the world where I was like, everything that I've been taught has been a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything we've been taught has been a lie. And, history is taught by the victor, right? So I'm having all these different thoughts to myself and how can I begin to unravel some of these things? And how can I begin to just peel back the layers, right, of what I've learned outside and even about myself, right? Just how can I peel back some of the layers and just be honest with, why I'm making some of the decisions I made, not putting the blame on anybody else, right? Whatever trauma you have, you're responsible to navigate that and to go heal. Can't blame that on anybody else. That's how I look at things. So when I moved, it wasn't to find myself. It was just like to answer, just seek out information, seek out questions. Like I knew who I was. I was comfortable and confident in who I was, where I stood, how I conducted myself. I wasn't just going with the wind, if you will. But I definitely had questions and I wanted those answers and I couldn't get those answers unless I did the work myself.
Wow. Everything that you said was just so powerful. And I know those who will listen to this podcast, they will have to play that part back for sure. Because as you was listening, obviously I'm trying to stay present, but at the same time, I'm like, ooh, that was a word, right? So, and what you said, especially about indigenous practices, right?
Yeah.
So this whole piece that you really outlined about this nature, earth, nature, and food. Food is community, right?
100%.
And food is wellness, and food is life, and food is all of these things, right? Food is culture. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what differences did you notice in how people eat in the countries that you went to, the countries and continents actually that you went to?
For one, the food in America is awful, right? I want to start there. Like what they feed us, what we're allowed to consume. Much of it is banned in other places, right?
Yes, it is.
So it's banned in other places, right? So living in Mexico, and this is even in Africa. I remember when I first went to Africa, people told me that watch what you eat because you're going to get sick and this, that, and the third. And I spent some time in Africa. Then I didn't get sick till I came back when I reintroduced the American diet back into my system. That's when I got sick. So out there, I was fine. With 2 days I got back, I was in trouble because you understand that there's so many preservatives and so many other things. So in Mexico, and I start with Mexico because that's where I lived abroad and I spent a lot of time in other places, and I have stories about those that I can share as well. But just how they treat food, it's cleaner, it's fresher.
Mm.
It's weird because we're used to sometimes food lasting a long time, and that's because it's preservative. If food is fresh, you're not going to be able to keep bread for 2 weeks, right? In heat.
Not at
Or
all.
when you go other places, I mean that's not a real thing. Or when you go to other places and they have the eggs in the supermarket, the eggs aren't kept in the refrigerator; they're kept out, right? So these are all the different things that you just begin to notice. And when you have a better relationship with food, you understand that food is fuel, right? So we're so accustomed to eating certain things and we get full and we get tired and we get sleepy. If food is doing that to you, you're doing it wrong. Food is fuel. You're supposed to eat food and it's supposed to energize. It's supposed to galvanize. It's supposed to get you up and going. It is a fuel source. So if you're eating food and you have to go to sleep, it means you either ate too much or what you're eating is plain trash because not giving your body spending so much time digesting and processing is tiring itself out. So these are the things that I was experiencing living abroad where I would eat and I would eat a full meal and I can still go out, go for a walk, go do what I need to do. And you realize the food is just different from the chicken to the eggs. I was eating carrots that was sweet. Like this is the first time I'm eating carrots that I don't know if I was on my Bugs Bunny tip or what, but the carrots were sweet. It was almost like a fruit. And it was like, no, they get them from the jungle. Like this is what a carrot tastes like. No sugar added. So and I would juice. I would, beets, orange juice, and carrots was my juice every morning. And they called it Mayan blood, right? It's called Mayan blood. And it would just galvanize, right? Your skin is glowing, you feel good and everything else. So you really understand, about how the food is different in America. And I don't know if it's because we have so many people here that we have to highly process the food and we have to put steroids in the chicken. Like other places, they don't have organic food. They just have food, right? Like their
Facts.
fruits and vegetables are just naturally organic, right? There is no organic section in the supermarket. It's just fruit, right? It's chicken, it's fish. There you have all of these organic and this and that because they understand what they're normally giving us is laced in poison, essentially, which your body can sometimes may not process. So from the food standpoint, that's what I've gotten from the food. Even if you go to Europe or we go to Italy, eat the pasta, it's a different type of pasta, right? They tell you carbs are bad and carbs do this. Over there, you can eat pasta all day and still lose weight. Then you come here, you eat pasta and you feel bloated and you feel tired. And, so it's something is definitely, I don't have all the science behind it or the reasoning. I just know when I eat abroad and how I eat abroad and how I feel after I eat, then I come back here and I come back to the States and it's fried chicken and it's fried this and it's fried that. And it's just not sustainable for a healthy adult human being. It's not sustainable.
No, what you said hits the nail on the head. I know when you were speaking, you reminded me of my time in definitely Jamaica, India too, but in Jamaica, when I was in seminary, I had the pleasure of being a student minister in Jamaica for the entire summer. And it's an agricultural country, it's an agricultural space. And so everything was, like you said, everything was from the earth and really from the earth. Like even visiting parishioners, they had mango trees and all these other fruit and vegetables growing in their yard.
Yeah.
And that's something totally different. They had chickens, right? What would it be to really harvest your own chicken? And so when you were speaking, I was just like, for one, I think these spaces are more agricultural than industrial, like the US. US is all about, production, and, all the processing of things. So I think, yeah, to your point, you really can get it from the soil. And yes, carrots can be sweet and it's sun baked. It's sun baked food. So what I was basically saying is in these agricultural environments, they don't have all the pesticides and they don't have all of the stuff that we even put in the earth here in the United States.
Mhm.
You know, food can really be sun baked, right?
Yes.
Because you need that heat, right? And so you can get sweet carrots and you can get food that doesn't make you feel bloated and things of that nature. So the overall quality of food is just vastly different. I remember, again, when I was in Jamaica, they had Kentucky Fried Chicken, but they had Kentucky Fried Chicken was there, but they understood that you couldn't bring that processed chicken over here. You had to use our chickens,
Yeah.
right? The chickens that were raised in the yards, you
Yeah.
know, that were those fresh kills and things of that nature. And yes, the quality of that produce is vastly
It's
different
vastly different.
and better. Absolutely. On, you know, not just body, but for the feeding of the mind, because you said food is fuel, which I
Yeah.
liked. Absolutely is food. You know, the reduction of like inflammation and just overall sickness. And so, absolutely, absolutely. Staying on food for just a moment, do you think the meals there seemed more intentional? Was it more social and less rushed at all?
Well, yeah. So that's a big issue I have. As you mentioned, so the program that I have, me and my partner, we're in the DOE. We provide enrichment and catering services throughout the DOE. We're in about 35 schools, and we do all of the things, right? So it's culinary, it's fencing, it's lacrosse, it's chess, art, and everything else. But one thing that I noticed from a cultural standpoint, that kids are given about 20 minutes to eat their lunch. And so this is started at an early age where now you can't even process your food. You're taught, okay, you got 15, 20 minutes, eat your lunch, and then you got to go to the next thing. So now you're not even chewing, you're just inhaling your food. And that starts from the adolescence into adulthood. Other places, when they commune over food, it's time consuming. Everybody takes their time. They enjoy their food. Nobody is rushed. You chew, you have a conversation, you may have a glass of wine, you have a juice or whatever it is. But the whole how you process food and your relationship with food is different. It takes you 20 minutes for your stomach to tell your brain that you're full. It's a 20-minute segue, right? So if you're just eating, you've already overate, but you don't know it yet because your brain hasn't had time to process that thought. So that's why they tell you to eat slow, right? So you eat slow, you can say, wait, I've had enough, I'm good, right? But if you don't chew your food, but it starts from when you're young. Other places, they don't do that. They're not telling their kids, you got 10 minutes to eat your lunch and you got to hurry up and eat. No, you sit down, you take your time and you eat. And then, you stop when you're done. So that's why, you have these things of obesity here in other places where, it's pasta and rice, but they're not overeating, right? So there's a complete different relationship that other communities and cultures have with food than we do in the US, which is the fast food, fast food, fast food. Another thing, I was in Hong Kong many years ago, Asian, cuisine and everything else. There was a restaurant over there. It was called Heart Attack. What they were serving was chicken, fried chicken, burgers, and like soda. Essentially, it was a Western diet. And the name of the restaurant was Heart
Yeah.
Attack. I will send you the picture. I took a picture like I couldn't believe it. The
Wow.
name of the restaurant is called Heart Attack, and that's what they were serving. So they let you know that they don't eat. This is not what they eat on a regular basis. But if you want, this is. And it was almost comical, but it's serious because that's how they look at it. That's how they look at American Western diet. Like if you want to eat, fried chicken and hamburgers and have down it with a Coca-Cola, by all means. But understand what you're doing to your body. And you do this over years and years and years.
Wow.
They're fully aware of what they're doing. And in many places outside of this country, like you said about KFC, if you go to other places, because where I am right now, I'm at a sports camp where this is how I got my start in many sports. So there are a lot of counselors from Europe and from Australia and everything else. They have the same products, but they don't taste nothing like the same. So the Coca-Cola you can buy in London is vastly different than the Coca-Cola that you're going to have here.
Yes.
The ketchup that you're going to use in Paris is not going to be the same. It's made by Heinz, right? Or whatever. but it's not going to taste the same because the ingredients that we put and the sugar and the preservatives and everything else. So they know
And
what
the
they're doing.
dyes.
And then the dyes, right? The red dye and the blue dye. They know what they're doing. You can't get a blue or red Gatorade in Europe. Like just watching the World Cup, I think it was Norway. They sent their entire soccer team over with their own food. The entire soccer team, they're going to be for a month. Look it up. They sent their entire soccer team their own salmon, their own rice, their own beverages. They was like, you're not eating what those Americans eat. No way. Google it. They'll say, I think it was Norway. They sent their side with like 2,000 pounds or kilograms of food to last them because they were like, you are not eating that American diet. So there is an understanding, and the world knows, the U.S. knows, people know, but it's then what do you do about it, right? And so now you have to, what do you do about it? Because you've been indoctrinated to eat a certain way.
Absolutely.
Right? It's easy. You know, I grew up at the Chinese restaurant around my way. What I order from there is not what they eat, right? I would go get, 4 chicken wings and French fries. They're not eating that, right? I could go to the Spanish restaurant and I get a pound of rice, some chicken, no vegetables on the plate, right? It's just how we choose to eat, and then how you go about it, right? So those things are important, and other communities don't eat like that. Even Mexico, like what we consider Mexican food, they're not eating that. Like they're not eating. You may get a street taco here and there, but they're not eating quesadillas and burritos and all of that. That's Tex-Mex. That's something that we took and we made it Mexican and Taco Bell. Mexicans aren't eating that trash. They have real cuisine, great food, their own spices. It's actually quite delicious, to be honest with you. But it's not what we envision, what we consider Mexican food is not what Mexican food is, right? So it's, but yeah. So that's the thing with food. It's the relationship and you have with food. And it's evident as you move through different cultures. And I've been around several cultures and have eaten in people's homes, and it's a completely different relationship that they have with food. That things that we eat on a daily basis, they wouldn't dream of eating, right? They just wouldn't dream of doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. Haven't been to as many countries, but the countries and the emergent experiences that I have, absolutely. 100%.
Night and day.
100%. Big time. Big time. Going back to the healing for a little bit. What surprised you most about slowing down? And did your definition of success change?
Well, one, I'm 47 and life is good, but obviously, we say it all the time, health is wealth.
Yes.
But understanding, so I said something earlier and it's about freedom. There were several moments when I lived abroad where I lived a carefree life, meaning I didn't have an alarm clock, but I would still wake up at 6 a.m. just because life was good, right? But I wasn't constantly hitting the snooze button or stuff like that. And one thing that gets overlooked, and as I'm now very deep into my health and well-being, is stress, what stress does to the body. And as Black people in this country, Black men, I'll speak from my perspective, we live under constant stress from the adolescence all the way to the day we die. So you're talking about that is years and years of cumulative stress on the body, what it does. And I think that gets overlooked a lot when we talk about people passing away from heart conditions or they have cancer or anything else. A lot of that is due to stress and the impact. Our immune system becomes weaker. We become fatigued and so on and so forth. It becomes a daily battle for survival, if you will. So there were times when it really dawned on me, I've been stopped and searched. Mind you, I've never sold a drug in my life. I'm a college educator. I've had my own business for many, many years successfully. But I grew up where I grew up. So that none of that matters, right? Black man, medium height, medium build, low haircut. Like that's the description of the assailant. Meanwhile, you just named 90% of the Black men in America, right? So what does that mean? Brown skin, black hair, like that's all of us. What are you talking about? So I've dealt with what I've dealt with, and I've had on several occasions, you see police, you tense up a little bit. That was just the way of the world. Living in Mexico, I didn't have any of that. Like, and mind you, because there are cartels and stuff like that, there are police around with, machine guns. It doesn't even dawn on you that they are thinking about you and you're not thinking about them. And that was the first time in my life at the age of 42 years old where I saw a cop and I was like, all right, cool. Have a good day, officer. Like, you know what I mean? It just, there was
Wow.
nothing in my body, in my
Mm-hmm.
being that felt any form of threat. And when you live away and we live in America and we live in the communities that we live in and we watch the news every day and we see black men getting killed every day and women going through what they have to go through,
Mm.
there's no way to decompartmentalize that. And pardon me, I always have a struggle with that word, but there's no way to not digest some of that. Like it sits in you, right? Every day at 11 o'clock news, you hear another young man getting killed. Every day on 11 o'clock news, the fire broke down and a baby died. Every day, and you see it, and you see it, and you see it, and you see struggle.
Mm-hmm.
It is not how we're supposed
Mm-hmm.
to live. That in and of itself, aside from the food being poisoned and everything else, our bodies, our immune systems are under constant attack, constantly. And when you live like that, you don't even dawn on you. Like, you know, you're trying to make money to feed your family. You don't get enough sleep. You're working two jobs. It's a brutal way to live. It's a way that many of us have been forced into.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until you step outside that paradox where you're like, wait a minute, it doesn't have to be. And that's the beauty. So for me, in being able to sit still, I was able to release a lot of that stress, a lot of that burden. I had a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, pool on my roof. And I used to get up at 6, sometimes 5:30, because there'd be a rooster that lived behind my building that would wake me up. And I would get up at 5:30 and I wouldn't even think about going back to sleep. I'm like, I'm ready for the day. I'm ready for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something I've never experienced, right? You get up at 5:30, I'm trying to snooze. I need 10 more minutes. I need 15 more minutes. But when you're excited for the day and that stress, that burden is no longer there, you shift how you process your day, how you process your time, right? I remember when I first retired, my first retirement, and folks are like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Folks can even fathom like an existence without having to work, right? As if work is your existence, right? Like, what is your hobby? So I was able to tap into my hobbies. I love chess. I love working out. You know, I started to learn a second language, or sometimes I would just be, right? It's okay to just be. Right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't always have to fill up your day with this, and this, right? But
Absolutely.
especially in New York, it's like we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go. Like, no, slow your ass down, right? I mean, be productive, get things, get done. I'm not saying be lazy, but that ability to be still, that ability to operate without that stress. And then I began to tap into certain practices. So I started doing yoga, which is super helpful. I was doing Reiki, super
Mm-hmm.
helpful. I did something called a Temascal, which is an ancient Mayan
Mm-hmm.
practice. It's also called a sweat lodge with a shaman. I had a shaman out there where you go into like a yurt and they use volcanic rock. It's super hot. There's chanting.
Mm-hmm.
You're thankful. It's like 20-minute sessions. You pray to the east, the west, the north, and the south, right? And they burn mint and sage and everything else. And it's a release. And it's done in the dark.
Mm.
And it's the word I'm looking for. It's a release, but it's never a word I'm thinking about. I can't think of it right now. But it's a beautiful, beautiful, transformative. It's called a spiritual rebirth. So these are the things that I
Mm.
started to partake in and dive deeper into when I was talking about some of the spiritual stuff and how the indigenous people from all over the world have their own practices, right? This was something that I fell in love with. And it started there, then it moved into some African practices and so on and so forth. But when you meditation, right, just stuff like that, just the ability to process sound baths, I was doing that. So I was doing all of the things, right? All of the things I was
Mm-hmm.
trying them out, seeing which felt good, which was like, I like this or I don't like that. And it allowed me to breathe. It allowed me to process. It allowed me to have a different view of the world. And it's something I truly wish every Black person can do that lives in this country or in any country that is run by not us.
Understood. So far we've spoken about community as just that. I'm curious about what did you observe about loneliness? Because we're not around people all the time. But yeah, what did the quiet times, like you said, just be, but when you were in that space with yourself, I'm not going to say by yourself, with yourself. Yeah. So what did you observe about loneliness?
So those are the times where, that's a great question as well, because you do spend a lot of time by yourself. I don't want to say alone because I did have a community, but that allows me to really to get to know me, right? And that's part of the question where people say, so what are you going to do now that you have this time, now that you don't have to work, quote unquote? And you really have to discover who you are, what your joy is, right? And you have to be okay with yourself, because as much as you can have community and everything else, there are going to be times where it's just you. And what is it? Whether it's reading a book, whether it's meditation, there will be times where I would go on my roof, I would get in the pool, I'll smoke a cigar, look at the sky. I started learning astrology. And not to say I always had to fill up my time, but I really just had to find, where do I find joy? What gives me joy? What gives me peace of mind? What puts a smile on my face? What can I get lost in? And before I know it, 4 or 5 hours have passed. And I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that time, where that time went. Those are the things. And I feel like because of, we are so busy and people are so overly stimulated through, electronics and social media, people don't know themselves. You ask people what are their hobbies and they'll tell you traveling. Well, traveling is not a hobby. You can't do that all the time. Right? That's something you can do, but you can't travel all the time. Like, right? Our grandparents, they would sew, they would knit, they would do this. Those are playing chess or playing gin rummy, like playing cards. Like, those are hobbies where you can fill your time. Traveling is not, I don't consider traveling a hobby. It's something I'm able to do, or I bless you to do. But so if you don't have hobbies, whether it's reading a book or whether it's learning something, or I used to collect comic books, right? I would, I watch I watch travel videos. Like, I can watch people tell you, me now, I would watch video on every country in the world because that's something I want to experience. I'm learning different spiritual practices, right? So when you have hobbies, and I do have a thirst for learning. So for me, learning is one of my hobbies, and it doesn't matter about what it is. I love speaking to people or reading about something. And if you're passionate enough about it, you can make anything sound interesting. I don't care what it is. Right. So I love learning. I love learning. And that's something that has helped me tremendously. But the time by yourself, I do believe that people do not know who they are as far as what they enjoy. The conversation that really bothered me a lot was when I told people I retired and I was 41, 42, maybe. And folks really couldn't understand what I was going to do with my time. And I would look at them as if they were nuts. Like, my profession never was who I was, right? It's how I made my money. It's how I made a living.
Say that part again. Absolutely.
It didn't define me. This is what I do. I'm good at it. I enjoy it. But if I don't have this job, I can find joy, and I have joy doing other things. Right?
Absolutely.
I think it was R.E.C. And now this is just one of my favorite quotes because this has applied to my life so much. Somebody, R.E.C. had a quote where somebody asked her, what is her dream job? She says, I don't have one. I don't dream of labor. Right? And it's just, like, I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand.
Go Earth.
Yeah, she's like, I don't dream of labor. And that's me. Right? I don't necessarily. And there are I have friends, I have networks, I have amazing careers. But that's not, my freedom is worth more than a numerical amount. Now, I'm not saying finances are important and we all need money and so on and so forth. But I would leave money on the table to maintain the freedom and flexibility that I have now. Right? So
facts. 100% agree.
And that's for me. I'm in the mountains for 2 months. I work at a camp where I'm at. But I told you, like, I'll say work with quotation marks. Like, it's a camp I went to as a kid, so I ref some basketball games. I help kids out with some basketball lessons. I help kids out working out in the gym just so they can understand what they're doing without hurting themselves. And that's pretty much my days. So I'm here for 2 months, and then I'll be done with this in August, and then I'm going to Southeast Asia for another 2 months, right? Because I have that flexibility. They're like, well, where are you going to go? I don't have it all mapped out. I have the countries I'm going to visit, right? It'll be Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia. And I might sneak in Taiwan, a few others. But I say that to say it's more about the flexibility and the freedom than it is the finances, right? So could I take a job right now and make whatever number I could? Yes, I could. But I was also able to start my own thing, me and my partner. So that helps tremendously. But the freedom and the flexibility, and mentally and spiritually, I couldn't be in anybody's corporate world right now. I couldn't. It wouldn't work. I wouldn't be at peace.
Know thyself. Yes, absolutely.
I wouldn't be at peace. It wouldn't work. So, but the ability to avoid the stress, I think that's something that And that's a common thread between people who live abroad. You ask them what's going on in America, they're like, I don't know. But what about Trump? You saw what he did? I don't know. Nor do I care. Right? I want to make sure my family's good.
That in itself
right?
is freedom. Yeah, seriously, that in itself is freedom. Not worrying about the sitting president, not worrying about if a congressperson is dead or not, serious, all of the noise. I call it noise, all of the noise, all of the noise. So you told the listeners where you're going to in August. Can you share the countries that you have already been to, lived in, or have been for an extended stay? I'll put it that way, because I have some questions. I first want them to hear the countries where you've been before I get into this next part of our interview.
So I can't name all. I'm close to 80, but I would give you I would give you a good amount, and then I'll tell you what led to the transition, if you will, or the change. So I've been through most countries in South America. Obviously, Mexico. I spent some time in Colombia, Brazil, Costa Rica, Chile, Peru, Honduras. I been all through the Caribbean, been to Canada, then I've been throughout Europe. So I've been to London, I've been to France, but England, Great Britain, France, Amsterdam, Spain, Portugal, Italy. I've been to Brussels, and then I've been to 10 countries in Africa. And I say that's important because that was kind of like my last frontier, if you will. Like I said, so just how naive I was about Mexico, I was just as naive about Africa. I remember I'm traveling to all these different places. I'm going to Europe, and I'm in Asia, I'm in Hong Kong, I'm in Japan, China, Macau, and all these different places. And it was starting to bother me that I kept flying over Africa, right? Especially in the household that I grew up in, right? I mean, I'm named after a Moorish general. My name is Tarik Hamer. My first and middle name. My great aunt is Fannie Lou Hamer. I'm like one of the blackest people you can fucking know. Excuse my language. And I grew up in that type of house. It's like, you going to keep flying over Africa? Like, you can't be serious. So I finally made the decision to go to Africa, and I was 35. And I went to Senegal. I wanted to go someplace, a country that was predominantly black, right? Because there are parts of Africa you can go where they're still confused about who they are, and there's reasons why. But I didn't want to go to Morocco first. I didn't want to go to Egypt first. I didn't want to go to Northern Africa where I could still feel like a minority. And I had such a beautiful experience in Senegal. And the story was, that's along the west coast of Africa, there are many doors of no return, right? You have one in Ghana, you have one in Togo, you have one in Senegal. So I went to Senegal first, and I went to Gorée Island, and there were 2 lines to go to Gorée Island. And one was for Africans, one was for non-Africans. And the one for Africans it was like a quarter. And for non-Africans, they would charge in a tourist rate, right? Because they want to make sure. So they want locals and natives to be able to experience it. And then the foreigners, you got to pay. So this actually changed my life. So I was 35, my 35th birthday, and I'm on the line, and I look at it. I was like, you know what? Let me get on the line for non-Africans. I did that because I didn't want to make it seem as if I'm trying to get over and pay a cheaper fare. So I got on that line. There was an elder, like in the corner, older man, probably in the mid-70s, gray hair. He says, young man, what are you doing? He's like, you're on the wrong line. And as soon as I said it, I feel like my mom smacked me in the back of the head, right? I said, I'm sorry, but, I'm not African. And I didn't mean it that way. But as I heard it leave my mouth, I said, I can't believe I said that. And he just looked at me. He shook his head, and he like pointed to his skin. And he just put his hand. He's like, I don't know what they taught you over there. You're black. You're African. He gets up. He puts his arm, walks to me, puts his arm around me, walks me from the non-African line to the African line, and says, welcome home, brother. So now in this space, now I'm crying, right? I'm in tears. I'm like, oh, this man is crazy. I'm emotional. There are Asian and white people there looking like everybody just stuck, right? Nobody knows what to say, what to do. I think everybody had a moment like, oh my God, I can't believe I just witnessed this. But in having that, and again, so growing up here, you hear that Africans don't really rock with us, or we don't rock with Africans, and there's this constant bickering back and forth.
All this dissension,
There's always this tension. Like I said, from that moment on, I stopped going to Europe, and I'm like, I'm not going to keep spending my money with these folks who don't appreciate, who don't look like me, I'm pretty sure don't tolerate me outside of me paying this money. And so we went from Senegal, I went to the Gambia, I went to Ghana, I've been Ivory Coast, I've been to Tanzania, I've been to Ethiopia, I've been Egypt, then I would go to Egypt, I've been to Morocco, I've been to Mali, and I've been through Uganda, and understanding that every country is unique.
Yes.
They have their own language, they have their own music, they have their own history.
Yes.
And some of the amazing things that I had experience of, especially when I was in Tanzania, because before you speak, they can't tell that you're American, right? So they're like, hey, you look like you have family from the Congo. They can look at your features and say, you look like, oh, are you Congolese? Like, you look like, your nose and your book. And this was my first time hearing that from people who look like me, who, because everybody in Africa, they do look, not everybody, but they have their own distinct features, right? Ethiopians, you can spot an Ethiopian. You spend enough time there, somebody from Tanzania, you're like, okay, you have Tanzanian or Nigeria or whatever else. Like, they can see it. We may not be able to because we haven't been raised that way. We don't have that eye. But they can look at you and be like, oh, you look like you have family from Zaire. I mean, it's not even called Zaire anymore, but you look like you have family from, Mozambique. Like, do you have that? And that was an amazing thing for me to experience. So once I was able to do that, and I'm still doing the Southeast Asia stuff, but it was just me exploring. And now my goal is to visit every country in the world that I possibly can. Obviously, some countries I'm not, going to North Korea. I may skip Iran, right?
That seems wise.
Yeah, right. I'm not crazy, but being to all these different countries, and then also understanding how you travel is important too. And there's no judgment there, right? But I don't travel. I don't stay in resorts. I try to really localize my trip as much as possible.
Yes.
Right. So I can be with the people. I can go to the local spots and hear the live music. I can go to somebody's, mom and pop little shop and have some great food locally. And that's how you get to be able to really experience the places. So, and there are times even if I stay in a resort, I'll go speak to the workers, like, so where do you guys eat? Because I know you're not eating this, right? Like, where do they? And then they'll tell you. They're like, nah, man, we don't eat this. When we go to the other side of town, and they'll tell you, be careful and stuff like that. I'm from New York. My spidey sense is high, right? So I know what to look out for. And, anything can happen anywhere. But America is one of the most violent countries in the world. So when people understand that as well, right, how violent America is with the guns and everything else, that type of violence doesn't happen in other places unless it is a war-torn place in that particular moment. You're pretty safe in most places. Like I've been to, like I said, I think it's like 81 or something like that countries. I've never felt unsafe. The only time I've felt a little bit was when I was in Egypt, because they were very aggressive and they were aggressive with me. So that's the one place I tell women, a lot of my women friends, like, don't go there by yourself. And if you speak to enough people who travel, who've been around, that is the one common theme. Egypt, I don't know if it's because of culture, but I'm sure it's part of the culture, Middle East, and some of that may have to do with Islam and how they view women and everything else. But that is the one country that I've been to where I would say be mindful, go in pairs and stuff like that. But other than that, my experiences have been tremendous. I felt safe. I felt appreciated. I felt community. And this is from strangers now, like, right? I'm in Ghana and I'm talking to people and they're like, yo, bro, I was in the Philippines on tomorrow, and not the Philippines, excuse me, I was in Fiji. I was in Fiji, and they always show you, this world is a strange place. They will never show you a Black Fijian. When I got there were people who looked just like me with afros, and they were so happy to see me at the time. I was there with my lady at the time, and they were so happy to see Black folks, right? It's 2 hours away from Australia. I was really far. I don't even know how far it was. But again, the indigenous people from most of these places, they're all Black. And they never showed them, right? Even in Mexico. Mexico has a huge Afro-Mexican population, but you never see them. They're in Oaxaca, they're in Veracruz. They're thriving. There's millions of them, and you would never see them. And you don't understand that the current Mexicans now aren't even Mexican. Those are Europeans. They're Spaniards. Spanish is not Mexico's indigenous language, right? Mayan, like, it's so much. I don't want to get too far off, but, the Mayans still exist. Like, that's Mayan territory. Right, that's Mayan territory. We look at the Mexicans, and those aren't Mexican, but they're Spanish. They can't. There's no reason why in Mexico their language is Spanish. Like, we forget that the way Great Britain and English colonized America, everywhere that speaks Spanish was colonized by Spain. Spain was just as powerful as Great Britain was. There's no reason why South America speaks Spanish, other than they were colonized. That's not their native tongue. right? So anybody who's out there speaking Spanish, that's not them, right? So the Aztecs and the Mayans and the Tainos and so many other different groups. So when you go to these places, then you kind of go off the beaten path a little bit, and you start seeing Black folks and people of color, and you're like, wait a minute, I promise you, I didn't know Mayans still existed. I thought like it was an ancient civilization. And I'm in Mexico walking around, and they have their own language. It's like Mayans still exist. They're dark skinned, they have pointy noses, they're very short people. So I've experienced all these things. I've interacted with these people. I've talked to these people. I've made friends with these people. And, there aren't too many places now where I can't go, where if I don't have a direct relationship with somebody, community,
Yeah.
right, is 1 degree of separation, right? So I was in Ethiopia, and I had people I didn't know picking me up from the airport because of a mutual friend. And they took me on the town. And now, like, a time when you're coming back, or if you have any friends, because people want to tell their story as well, right? People want to tell their story. So people want to be seen, and people want somebody to listen to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm in Fiji, and these people got afros, and I'm like, and he's telling me, he's like, it's crazy. It's the craziest thing. Only Black person at the resort. And so we getting off, and he's like, listen, bro, like, what you want? Like, we're in a tour, and every chance he get, he's pulling me aside, like, yo, my brother, like, Africa, like, they are very in tune that Africa is their home base. Very in tune.
Wow.
Very, very in tune. But they got to play the game, right? They don't have the power, right? So they have to play the game, and they have to, perform and everything else. But when they saw 2 Black American folks, they was like, yo, like, it's love. They was bringing us free drinks and everything else. Like, what y'all need? Like, y'all good, y'all. We with our people. So I've had that experience, and that's what kind of turned me off to Europe, right? Because Europe is its own thing, and they do have Black people there. Obviously, a lot of folks are derived from Africa and the Caribbean. They're treated how we're treated here, essentially.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe not as bad, but they don't have the power. That white supremacy thing is a whole different thing. But you go to Asia, even in Asia, well, a lot of those countries, the indigenous people get darker and darker, right? Then you go to Taiwan, and there's Black. There's Black. Those folks are Black, right? Parts of China, folks are Black. Part of Asia, Cambodia, Vietnam, folks have some color, right? So these are just things you have to see for yourself, and you understand a lot of what we've been taught we were misled. And I enjoy unpacking that stuff. So I think I answered your question. I think I kind of went off on a tangent a little bit because your questions kind of lead me into, so I apologize for rambling.
No, I mean, but it winds up answering other questions that I have. So these are short answers. This is not the rapid fire that's coming up shortly, but these are the reason why I wanted you to paint the picture of where you've been is so I can ask you these 3 quick questions. Which country seemed to understand rest best?
I would say parts of Mexico, not like Tulum. Veracruz is a very spiritual place. Tulum was once that, it's not anymore. Spain, right? I mean, they take a break. It's hectic and as modernized that country is, they take a whole break in the middle of the day where everybody just relaxes. They take a break. And then I think just about every country in Africa, Ghana, right? So I tell my friends, when you go to Ghana, pack your patience. They just move slow. And if you try to rush them, I'm serious. If you try to rush them, they look at you like, what is wrong with you? Like, what's the rush? Where's the fire? Relax. Right? And so just culturally, they move. There is no rush in them. They're not being rude. It's not poor service. It is sit down, have a cup of tea, relax. We'll get to you. But that's part of a culture of just understanding rest, right? When there's no rush here. That's on us, right? I tell people, we go to places and we're so used to, I order this and they're like, whoa, slow down.
Yeah, slow down. Slow down.
Slow down. Off the back where Ghana really, because I tell like, if you go, pack your patience and you really have to understand that this is how they do things.
See, in saying Ghana, you just answered one of the other questions. So I'm not going to ask you that one because I was going to ask, did any feel less hurried? And for that, you said Ghana, right?
Sure.
How did people define productivity? Because, that's a big word here in the US. Productivity.
It's really through happiness. I feel like there is no, how they view productivity is defined by you and defined by being happy. Folks I've come across in many places, obviously, a lot of these places, they don't have much, right? They don't have what we have, but they're productive in family, legacy, and happiness. it's really, for me, I have like this dual experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I'm abroad, I dress a certain way because I'm mindful of where I'm at, right? So I'm not wearing jewelry, I'm designer stuff. It just seems insensitive, right, to an extent. And it's not necessary, it's not needed, right? And then you come back to the States and automatically you're back into it. Now I got the earrings in, I got the watch, I got the, but family and just happiness. And they really just enjoy, I would say family. That's for them to be productive. It's legacy. It's them, wife, depending on the culture, maybe more than one,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's children
Mm-hmm.
and it's children and it's legacy. And for them, that's all they need. It's all the bells and
Mm-hmm.
whistles, the big house, no. Getting 13 things done in the day, no. It's, are you raising your children and are you providing them to the best of your ability and making sure
Mm-hmm.
that they're good people, good, kind people.
Yes.
That's for them. What
Yes.
I've experienced. That's for them. That's success and that's productivity. Because it's not a checklist. They're not doing that at all. It's not a hustle culture. It's not a grind culture. That's an American thing that we made up.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Again, not nearly as many as countries as you've been, but I've noticed that as well in my travels. After seeing so many different cultures, what made you decide to invest in children? Now we get into your work with REC a little bit.
So a couple of things. So the camp that I'm currently at right now is in the Adirondacks. It's about 2 hours past Lake George. I came here when I was 9 years old. It's a predominantly white Jewish camp, and it is very affluential. There are several
Mm-hmm.
billionaires here. It's Jewish. So we've had the
Mm-hmm.
owner of the Sixers' son here. Jerry Seinfeld's son has been here. The owner of the Hawks' son is here. The owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. The owner of the Detroit Red Wings and Detroit Tigers, as well as Little Caesars Air. So this is a very
Mm.
influential place, and I was able to come here because my mom was a registered nurse. I did not have the money. This camp is $20,000 for 6 weeks. But at the age of 9 and 10, a little boy coming from the Bronx, I was exposed to archery. I was exposed to tennis. They were calling me a young Arthur Ashe. I didn't even know who Arthur Ashe was. I was playing soccer. I was playing volleyball. I was water skiing. I was sailing. So I was doing all these different things that I had never been exposed to. So that's part of it. That's a major part of where I'm right now. The
Mm-hmm.
other part, when I was living abroad and I was doing the healing that I was doing, the spiritual stuff, the work, it was, I had thought about opening like a wellness center for Black men, right? Where there was a space where they can, because I've always been into taking care of myself, right? Aesthetically. It's a lot deeper now, but I would go get my nails done. I would go get, stuff like that, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was never comfortable because I didn't want to sit around a bunch of women and talk gossip all day, right? So, like, I'm still a whole man, but now I'm in the nail salon and women are talking about, loving hip hop, and they doing this, and I'm like, this is crazy. Let me get out of here, right? So there was never a space for men, for heterosexual men, to go
Mm-hmm.
be groomed and be taken care of and stuff like that. So I was thinking of places where I can do that, where they can meditate, where they could do Reiki, they could do yoga, they can do all these things, but
Mm-hmm.
still in a masculine setting to where they don't have to deal with some of the things. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's women's space, right? Like you guys go to get their hair done and your nails done. You guys want to have your conversation. The same way we go to the barbershop and we have
Mm-hmm.
our conversations, right? So
Mm-hmm.
then it was like a wellness piece because I knew men needed it, right? I knew what it did for me, and I knew men needed it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to figure out a way to figure that out. And then I met my business partner. Actually, I met her in Tulum, and she was already doing some stuff in the schools, but she's a chef, so she was only doing culinary. So I got back to the States
Mm-hmm.
and I had went through some health issues, and I started to see what was available. So like the schools had taken a lot of things out of the schools, like music was taken out, dance was taken out, all the extracurricular stuff was taken out, and now it's being contracted in. So I told her, I said, listen, there's an opportunity here. I have a background where everybody plays basketball, right? Everybody plays basketball in the city.
Mm-hmm.
But I also knew being at this camp that just because you don't play basketball doesn't mean you can't play sports. And if these kids aren't given the opportunity or exposed to different things, then they go into a shell and they don't play anything. And that doesn't have to be the case, right? So I see kids who are good in basketball, but if you put them on a soccer pitch, it looks like they have no athletic ability. Or I see kids who are great in tennis, but they can't
Mm-hmm.
play baseball, right? So you have to understand hand-eye coordination and motor skills, they're different for every sport. So it's not
Yes.
just that, okay, you can't play basketball. You may be great at golf. You just put a golf guy on a basketball court, it's not going to, you'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe it's the same person. So what I told her, I said, listen, if we can create sports and not just focus on basketball, but expose children to other things, we never know what they might do, right? And another story, so I'm at this camp when I'm a kid, but it's a group of 7 of us. We're still in contact. We're still in the group chat. Everybody's doing amazing. Life is great. One of the kids couldn't play
Mm-hmm.
sports. Like he couldn't play basketball, soccer, baseball. It just wasn't happening, right? He couldn't do it. So he picked up a camera. He used to video, he used to record us playing sports and take pictures. And we was like 11 and 12 years old. And we used to make fun of him. Like, yo, put the camera down. We got 9. We need another one to play ball. He's like, I'm not playing, but y'all play. I'm going to record. He is now a 7-time Emmy Award winner for photography and editing. Right.
That is amazing.
So it showed me that he was able to find his lane. Right.
Yeah.
But that was because the more things he can experience and be like, okay, well, this is not for me. Okay, well, this is not for me. He had to then find photography. Right. Because he's like, well, I can't play. Let me do something. I still want to hang out with you guys. I'll take the pictures. Right. It's almost like Kodak Len, Lenny Est, if you will. Like everybody finds their lane. But if you don't allow children that lane to explore, then they never will. They'll just say, okay, well, you can't play basketball, you can't play sports, you go over there. So when we started this program, and
wow,
I was like, these kids need a chance. And based on my background, like I play when I'm at the camp. I can teach flag football. I teach chess. I do fitness. I do basketball. If they need me, I could do baseball. I can do soccer, right? And I do archery. So our program was such as we wanted to focus on all the outside sports, if you will, right? So we do. We absolutely have basketball. We have fencing in Brownsville. We have fencing in Queens. We now have lacrosse in Bed-Stuy, right? We're doing gymnastics, right? We have chess clubs. We have dance. We have photography. We have film. We have AI. We have all these different things. So it's one of these buffet of programs, a kid should be able to find something they can latch on to. We have 15 different programs throughout the DOE. We're in 35 schools right now. You can find something. That is the hope. And maybe you can. But it's not going to be because you didn't have a try or have an opportunity to try, right?
Yes.
And the more kids that we can give the opportunity to, the more kids we allow them to find that lane. You may want to go build robots. Your skill may be a mathematician. You may want to go build rockets in the future. Who knows? But if you're not given an opportunity and you're not exposed to it, you never know what your gift is. So
exposure is everything.
Exposure is everything, right? And that's what we've been able to do. And that's why the program is taking off. That's why it's so successful. And it's growing. We're in every borough right now, but Staten Island. We'll be in Staten Island in the fall. We're actually in Yonkers at a special needs school, which has been a phenomenal experience. So we're giving everybody an opportunity to venture out. And it's been a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I've been able to maintain my flexibility as well. So me and my partner have started that. We have about 22 employees right now and counting.
Nice.
Yeah, it's special, man. It's scary. It's a lot of work. It's everything you want it to be, but the good and bad, right? Trying to find good help, trying to find people you can rely on, all of those things. But it's tremendous, and we're super happy and we're blessed to be able to do what we do and to share it with so many young folks.
I've heard this all throughout our conversation today, but I'm going to ask you it very plain. The name in itself, the real empowerment of children, is powerful. The name in itself is powerful. What does real empowerment mean to you?
It means giving them the opportunities to find who they are and to find their gift, right? We're not steering anybody in any particular direction. We are giving you as many options as we possibly can for you to find your gift. Some people don't find their gift until they're adults. Some people find it when they're a kid, right? But it's about exposure. So if we can allow these children to explore every program that we have, you can go through the first 14 and be like, I don't like this. This is not for me. It's cool, but it's not for me. You may get to the 15th one and be like, you know what? This is it. Robotics. This is the one right? This right here. This is my get down. We're doing our job, right? But if kids aren't given that opportunity, they'll never know. So we're empowering them and giving them the options to explore all these different things. We have one school in Queens where a young person never did fencing before and was kind of an outlier, couldn't find a sport. he enjoyed the program so much. He asked his dad to reach out so he can have one-on-one fencing lessons. His dad was so moved. He was like, I've been trying to find something my
Nice.
son could do. He couldn't do the basketball. We tried baseball. We were trying this and trying that. He couldn't do it. He was like, who knew that he was going to stick to go with fencing? He was like, I didn't know anything about fencing. But that's the power of giving these kids, choices and options. And so now that young man,
Yeah,
he has a lane. And now he has his own community of kids that he can do fencing with, right? So we empowered him. So now you don't feel like the odd man out because these kids are doing this or they're doing that. Now you got your thing, right? And that's
exactly.
what we've been able to do. And that's what we've been able to do. And that's what's happening. I mean, the feedback is tremendous. And, again, these kids, otherwise, many of these kids wouldn't have this opportunity. So I also, when I'm in the city, I do some work with Dalton, right? So Dalton was a private school on the Upper East Side. My brother went there. It's one of the premier high schools in the country,
Mm-hmm.
$70,000 a year. They have
Mm-hmm.
resources out of this world. There's nothing at Dalton a kid wants to do he can't do. Kids in the public school have the same opportunity. So seventh graders at Dalton are learning AI and coding and everything else because you have to in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know AI,
Mm-hmm.
you're off. You're behind, right? It's like when the internet first
Mm-hmm.
came out and you still on dial up and you're like, I'm not using the internet. No, you have to use the internet at this point. So we are giving these kids an opportunity to do what these kids at Dalton is doing, the kids at, Poly Prep and Riverdale and Forest Man and Fieldson and Dwight, all of these private elite schools. And I'm able to bring that to them, right? Because these schools all have lacrosse, they all have fencing, they all have chess, right? They have basketball, but that's not where they hang their hat. They have all the other, they have the AI, they have the coding, they have whatever it is you think they're learning Claude, they're learning chat, they're learning whatever it is you think
Mm-hmm.
they could be learning, they're learning it and learning it at 11 years old. They're learning the stock market, they're
Yeah,
learning trading, they're learning everything, right? So we can give our kids, and we're not trying to raise the next Olympic fencer, but if we can spark, if we give them a spark, we can then point them in the right direction. Okay, well, now you can go to this program because now you've shown the ability to
absolutely.
excel in this. We shown the ability to excel in that. We did our job. We did our job. So that's really what it's about. And I see the resources that we have. This camp, what they do for me, because I've been now part of this camp for 37 years. Every year, they gently use equipment. They give me all their basketballs, all their, volleyballs, all their soccer balls. I take that and I give it to the schools. And
That's amazing.
yeah, it's incredible. They gave me 90 pieces of equipment last summer. 90 basketballs. For
Mm.
basketballs for the little kids, basketballs for adults, volleyballs, soccer balls. Right now, this year they're going to give me the cross
Yes,
stick,
yes.
everything, because they have to buy new every year. You can't have year-old equipment paying 20,000. So every year they got to get new equipment, and they was throwing it away or just giving it away. I was like, listen,
Mm-hmm.
I can use this. If you go through some of the public schools in New York City, you see the equipment that they're using. It's terrible. It's terrible. Like nobody can play
Big
basketball with
time.
the basketball got 8 knots in it. You can't dribble that basketball, right? So now we're donating basketballs, we're donating volleyballs, we're donating soccer balls, we're donating lacrosse sticks, right? So that's part of what we do as well. And so it's been tremendous. It's been tremendous.
That is phenomenal, Tarik. Like on so many levels. Just when I think about everything that's being cut in the public schools, right? In
Yeah,
education, period, right? And so to know that, a camp of affluence
yeah,
basically is paying it forward. And it's paying it forward with quality things, right? Because sometimes when people call themselves looking out, or whatever the situation is, the stuff is tattered, right?
yeah,
Nobody needs tattered. Like if I need a textbook, I need the textbook to be fully bound,
yeah,
right? Not to be missing sheets and stuff.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So that is absolutely wonderful how I know you work up there and have been connected, but kind of that reciprocity. And it seems like all of these circles that you have been, blessed, quite frankly, to navigate, it seems like there's been openings for other things to link to them and other things to link to them. And ultimately that is community, right? That
Yeah.
is really looking out not only for the next generation, but for the next human, right? And I know throughout this conversation, we're talking about kind of the ethos abroad versus the ethos of the US, but I do think that that is something here in the US that we have really gotten away from, really considering our neighbor, really considering the other, whatever the other is, whatever, and there's so many means to divide us, but what can bring us together? And so I'm so excited about the work that you and your partner are doing.
Thank you.
And I just know that those seeds, they're just going to be just continue to germinate.
It's special.
Yes, very much so. And so we have come to the part of the podcast that is kind of like quick answers. So it's kind of like, don't overthink it.
I got you.
Yeah. Quick fire, so to speak.
Got it.
The world taught me.
There are a lot of amazing and beautiful people out in the world, just like myself. I'm not alone.
Every child deserves
opportunity and exposure.
Empowerment begins when
people have the ability to seek their true purpose.
The greatest investment we can make is
in yourself first, then you pay it forward.
One thing I hope young people learn early is
limitless, no bounds.
Travel changed my perspective by
love.
If every community embraced wellness, it would look like
joy, smiles, and happiness.
The future I hope we're creating for our children is
the warmth of other suns. You are not bound to where you were born.
Wellness is
peace.
That is amazing. This whole interview has been amazing. And
I appreciate it.
I know you're in the mountains. So for our listeners, if you heard sometimes things were going in and out, he's in the mountains.
Yeah, I apologize to those who are listening. I'm definitely in the mountains. Don't let this little Golden Gate thing fool you. I'm in a bunker in the woods, stars at night and everything else.
But wow, this interview truly was priceless. Before we go, can you share your social media? How do people hear or learn more about the Rec Center and what you all are offering in New York City?
Yeah, so the IG is the Rec Center Works, at the Rec Center Works. Website is thereccenterworks.com. And my personal IG is I Am The Real Alchemist. IAMTHE Alchemist. It was my favorite book, by the way. It's just part of my journey.
Tarik, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Like I said, there are so many gems in what you were saying. I know some listeners are going to say, well, she didn't speak too much today, but you had it. I didn't have to speak too much. I was just listening. No. Sometimes it's okay. You said to just be. I always tell people anyway, I'm a professional listener anyway, by trade, by being a therapist. So I am accustomed to just listening, and I didn't have much to add. You was just rocking it. So I appreciate you for being here today. And I'm sure it won't be the last time.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Looking forward. Blessings on blessings.
Mm-hmm. Same to you.
Thank you, dear. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Today's conversation reminds us that wellness isn't confined by borders. It can be found in the meals we share, the communities we build, the perspectives we gain, and the ways we choose to invest in others. Tarik's journey reminds us that while travel may expand our worldview, purpose gives those experiences lasting meaning. So here's the question I'll leave with you. What lesson from your own life could be a gift to the next generation? Carry that question with you. And until we meet again, may your hope be full, because being well isn't one thing, it's all the things. Thank you for spending this time with us on All Things Well. As you go about your day, I hope something from today's conversation stays with you, encourages you, or invites you to care for yourself in a new way. Remember, being well isn't one thing, it's all the things. Until next time, may your hope be full and may you be well.